tutorial, we will look at simplifying fractions. Simplifying fractions involves taking a fraction and reducing it into its lowest terms. Let's look at some examples. The fraction 2/4 is not in its lowest terms. When you're going to simplify a fraction into its lowest terms, you want to look for a number that can divide evenly into both the numerator and the denominator. Looking at 2 and 4, I know that they have a shared factor in common, the factor 2. If I divide the top number by 2, and if I divide the denominator by 2, I'm going to get a new fraction of 1/2. The fraction hasn't changed in value, it's just been reduced to its lowest terms. So 2/4 is the same as 1/2. Here's another fraction, 15/18. Sometimes it's hard for our brain to understand fractions that have big and large denominators, like 15/18. So sometimes it's helpful to reduce them to lowest terms, to fractions that are easier for our brain to grasp. Looking at 15 and 18, I remember that 15 and 18 both have 3 as factors. So if I divide the top and the bottom by 3, I can reduce it to a fraction that is in lower terms. If I divide 15 by 3, I get 5, and if I divide 18 by 3, I get 6. 15/18 in its lowest terms is 5/6. The fractions are still equal to each other, but we would say that this fraction 5/6 is in its lowest terms. It can't be reduced any further because 5 and 6 don't have any other common factors other than 1. You know you've gotten a fraction in lowest terms when the only common factor they have left is number 1. Let's look at one last example. 24/36 is a rather large fraction for our brain to process. But I noticed right away that both 24 and 36 have 2 as a common factor because I know that 24 and 36 are both even. Since they're both even, they can both be divided by 2, and that would help me reduce the fraction a little bit. So let's go ahead and divide the top by 2 and the bottom by 2. If I divide the top by 2, 24 divided by 2 equals 12. If I divide the numerator or the denominator by 2, 36, I get an answer of 18. Now 12/18 still isn't in lowest terms, but at least it's got me on the way there. I'm going to rewrite 12/18 down here, and I'm going to see if I can reduce it even further. Now I notice that 12 and 18 also have another factor in common. They have 2 in common, but they have a bigger number in common too, the number 6. I'm going to go ahead and divide the top by 6, and I'm going to go ahead and divide the bottom by 6. If I do that, I'm going to get an answer of 2/3. Now I know 2 and 3 only have one factor in common, that's 1. So I know I've reduced it to its lowest terms. So we would say that the 24/36 in its lowest terms is 2/3. Now, if you really knew your factors, you could have gotten this all done in one step. You might have realized that 24 and 36 both have 12 as a factor. If you divide 24 by 12 and if you divide 36 by 12, you'll get the answer 2/3 in one step. Either way, you're still going to get to the answer in lowest terms. So if you're struggling with the fraction and you notice they're both even, start by dividing them both by 2. That'll get you on the path to getting to lowest terms.